Urban Rhino Tutorials. Today I'm going to show you how to create a glass terrarium. So you can buy glass terrariums like this at the store. So this is kind of the idea of what we are mimicking. This one has been soldered together, which we do stained glass work in my class, and the kids do learn how to solder. However, when we do this project, my students are learning the basics of cutting the glass to a specific size, as well as just learning how to, I guess, work with the template and piece everything together. So it's really important that your pieces, when you cut your glass, are exact. Otherwise, because this is a geometric design, it's not going to fit together well if not. So I'm starting with this template that I created, and basically when this is finished, it's going to create a pyramid shape that has a little bit of an opening, so you can put like an air plant or something inside of it, or you could put a candle in it if you preferred. So you would print this out, which I have these on my on our art department website. They're not on my Urban Rhino website, but I can include a link to that, or if you just want to shoot me a message and I can send you the file for this. I also have one to create the taller terrarium if you prefer to do that. So you would go through and cut out all your pieces. You need to pay attention to how many it says. So like this one says cut 3 of this one, so you would cut it, cut this out, cut this out, cut this out, and cut 3 pieces out of the glass of that shape. 1 of this one and 1 of this one as well. So once you do that and you have your templates, which I wrote these by hand before I went back and photoshopped them because I have terrible handwriting, so to me that looks much nicer. So I've got my shapes here all cut out, ready to go. And then what I would do is place them on the glass to cut the glass. And I'm gonna cut one side. I'm not gonna cut the whole piece, so you don't have to sit there watching me cut a bunch of glass. But just know that I will, again, include a link to the glass cutting video so you can get a better idea of how to cut the glass if you're unsure how to do that. You can do this one of 2 ways. So you can put your template on top of the glass and score beside it, or you can put it under it, which I think is easier because it holds it in place. You could also, if you are putting it on top, you could just tape it to the glass to make sure it holds its shape. So I'm going to put it right here. I'm going to score a line in the glass. I'm going to take my running pliers and snap the glass so that it's broke. So I have that exact angle right there. So I'm going to go through, or I would go through, I've already done this, and cut out all of my shapes. So you end up with this. So that is this one. You would have your square, which is going to be your bottom piece. And then your 3 triangles, which serve as the sides. Okay, so that is this one. So what I'm going to do from here is start to assemble this. When you do that, you're going to want to have 2 things. You want some painter's tape and some of the I think the E6000 glue works really well. It's like an industrial strength, and it works very well on glass. So you want both of these things, and what you would do is begin going through and trying to tape your glass in place. You'll go back and secure it with some of the glue, and then from there you will go back and put the foil along the edge so that it looks finished. I'm going to show you a little bit of how I do this. again because I don't like to make my students sit there and watch me for hours at a time. I'm going to do the shortened version of this, so I will begin taping it, and just to give you an idea of how this works, it's sticking to my table. I'll begin taping it, and then I'll skip ahead and show you what it looks like when it's all finished. So you want to be very careful when you're working with the glass, because obviously it has a very sharp edge. So I'm just lining this up, and the first couple pieces are always really hard. It's not a bad idea to have someone help you if necessary. Instead, you guys can watch me struggle here for a minute. But once you get the tape in place, press it down so that it holds it. The nice thing about the painter's tape is you can remove it pretty easily if necessary. So you can see it's starting to kind of lean a little bit. It's holding it in place. And then I'm going to put my next shape here. So it's starting to form that pyramid. I'm going to tape one more, and then I will skip ahead so you don't have to watch me tape them all. And when you do tape them, you want to make sure you're leaving the corners exposed. So where your glass pieces meet, those joints, I would leave those exposed because that is where you're going to put the glass glue. And if you do happen to, like if this tape was a little bit too long, it's not a big deal. I can take off some if necessary. Okay. Set that there to hold it. I'm going to tape this last one here into place, and then I'll finish up my other two sides. This is definitely the hardest part. The cutting the glass isn't too difficult, especially if you've ever cut glass before, then that shouldn't be difficult at all for you. And taping at the end with the foil tape is not hard. It's getting these pieces into place so that they don't slide around. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and finish these other two sides, and then when I come back, I'm gonna show you how to secure everything. Okay, so I have all my pieces taped together. You can see it forms this pyramid, and then on this side the wall is shorter, so it makes an opening. So what I am going to do, I've already put some on a few corners, and I put it on just wax paper, because if you put the glue on it and just have it on some other surface, it's going to obviously stick to it. So the wax paper will prevent it from sticking. And then I have it on this it's just some tracing paper, the board itself, so that I can move it to a different location to dry. So I have my E6000 glue, and if you've never used this before, be careful when you are using it, because it's not like a tube of toothpaste that when you squeeze it, it stops coming out after a minute. This is like a metal tube, so when you squeeze it, it holds that shape, and it's gonna keep pouring out, so you have to squeeze it lightly. But I'm going to just put kind of a glob of this in each corner, and I'm just going to use kind of the opening of the glue tube to kind of spread it out a little bit. But I want to make sure I get all pieces of the glass that are coming to that joint right there. And then I'm going to do it on this side as well. And when we go back and put the copper foil on, it will cover up this glue. And then I put glue on each of these corners as well. as well as on this little half wall, this part up here, and then I'm going to put some on the top. You want to be very careful that the part you put on the top doesn't drip down. You don't want to get it on the glass inside here. So a combination of this glue, and really the glue itself should hold everything together, but the glue and the tape is going to be what keeps everything secure. If you want to be really, really extra sure, you can try to get in here and get the inside corners. You could even run it along each edge if you wanted to. I don't think that's necessary, but if you wanted to do the edges, you would have to let these joints dry first and then take off the tape and then do those. Otherwise, it's just gonna fall apart while it's drying. So I'm going to let these dry, and then when I return, I'm going to show you how to finish up your terrarium by adding the copper foil. So I have all the corners glued, and that glue is dry. So I'm gonna go back and remove my tape, and if any of the glue tries to peel up with it, you just trim that off. So you can see they are holding together, which is the goal. And then what I'm going to be doing is, like I said, going back and putting the, let me get that one off there. Putting the tape or the foil on to cover the edges. And not only do I want to cover the joints, but I do want to get the actual raw edges of the glass on this opening that I have here. So remember, I've got this shorter piece here, that way there's an opening for my terrarium. So this and this and this, I want to make sure I put foil there as well, because that's just a raw edge and I don't want anyone to cut their hands. So I'm going to remove all of this. If you happen to be removing your tape and anything looks like it's coming apart, I would definitely keep that tape on and add a little more glue, let it set up again. About 2 hours is a good time frame to let it dry. Obviously you can let it sit overnight if you prefer. And got a little bit of glue stuck on my tape there, so I cut that off. And last piece, so you can see everything held together nicely. So what I'm gonna do, and this is another case of where I'm not gonna make you watch me do all of it because that would take a while, but I am going to use my copper foil, and I have 1/2 inch here, and what that allows for is for me to wrap it around and not leave any of the raw edges exposed. So in order to do this, I usually will cut a little bit here, and I'm going to run the tape down the edge, and the hardest part, I will tell you, is the top here. Another thing, if you don't mind using a lot of your foil tape, your copper foil, copper tape, whatever you want to call it. Another thing that you can do is, well, I'm talking and messing up my stuff. You could go through and wrap the edges of all of your glass before you glue them together. And what that will do is that will give you more of an edge on the inside that you see as well. And then instead of worrying about how they come together at these joints, you already have them wrapped. So that, again, that's one way to do it. It's not necessary, but you certainly can. So with this foil, you just pull the backing away, and once it gets started, it's a lot easier. Normally I will pull the backing away and trim off just the foil instead of cutting a whole section off, and that makes it a little bit easier so that you're continuously pulling the backing instead of having to like stop and do this every time, because it takes a second to get it started, as you can see. All right, now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to run, I tell you what, I am not on it today. I gotta stop talking while I'm doing this. So let me show you what I meant. If you pull the backing away like this, you can hold on to it and pull it as you are working. And to be honest, I think that's a little bit easier because it keeps it from rolling up like you just saw me do. So I'm going to, good Lord here, run it along the edge, and the goal is to have the same amount on each side of that seam. And then I'm just going to press it down like this. And then I'm going to trim it at the top. And you want to make sure that there aren't any like bubbles or anything. So run your hand along that, and then be careful as you're getting to those, again, those raw edges. So, okay. And again, if you choose to, you can certainly wrap the pieces individually. So I'm going to do this side, and then I will finish up the rest so you don't have to watch me do all of this. So again, I'm just trying to get the same amount on each side here. And you want it to be straight, so you don't want it, certainly don't want it to be uneven. And again, I'm going to trim this at the top. Press it down, try to get any bubbles out. If you have a burnishing tool, you can use that if you work with stained glass. Otherwise, just kind of use your nail to kind of go back over that and make sure there aren't any bubbles. Okay, like that. And then I am going to go ahead and finish the other edges, and then when it's all complete, I will show you what it looks like when it's all done. Okay, I'm almost finished up here. The last section I have to cover is the bottom, and I'm gonna do one continuous piece all the way around. So I am going to, goodness, trying not to lean over too much so my head isn't blocking the video camera, and do this at the same time is a little bit challenging. So I'm again going to try to do this in one piece and press it down a little bit as I go. I have it kind of propped up here. And as I rotate here, I will then go back and press it down completely. And I might have to cut it a little bit in the corners to allow that foil to lay down flat since it's at an angle there. The nice thing about this foil is it's fairly forgiving, so you know, if you mess up, you can kind of lift it up and reposition it, and if you just go back and make sure that you press it all down smooth, it usually will lay down pretty flat for you. Okay, again, I'm gonna go back and kind of smooth this out. Get turned here. And if you feel confident in your glass cutting ability and you feel like you are really going to be able to get your pieces exactly in the shape that they need to be with no problems, no variations at all in the size, then you could go down in size on this tape. So this is a little bit larger than what I care to use. I'm doing this obviously for my students for a tutorial, and this is what they will use because it allows, because it's wider, then if they have any gaps where their glass meets up, it's going to cover that without any issues. The thing that I don't like as much about it is that, again, it shows more of this foil, and I would prefer it to be a little bit more thin. So you could go down in size if you feel like you won't have a problem getting your glass to meet up. Okay. So, going to go back and press all of this down. Make sure I've got it even. You know, the corners are where you might run into just a little bit of difficulty. So you just want to make sure that you are mindful of that there. Again, pressing it all down. I'm kind of using my nail to get any bubbles out. Just be careful you don't want to completely tear the tape. Again, you can use like a burnishing tool. You can use like a plastic spoon and use the edge of that. Just anything that's not like too sharp, you could use to go back and press these down. So, just double checking all of it. How your foil looks on, you know, whether it's really bumpy, bubbles, uneven, is going to determine really the success of this project. So paying attention to that and taking your time will really affect the outcome. It's going to make the difference in a really nice looking terrarium versus a very sloppy looking one. So I think I got most of it flattened. So you can see now I have all of the edges covered. Again, on these corner pieces where the tape is bigger, if you feel comfortable going down in size, so this is a 1/2 inch, so you could go to like the 3/8 inch tape. You could certainly do that so it's a little bit smaller. They even have 1/4 inch as well. It's going to depend on the thickness of your glass and, again, how comfortable you are piecing it all together. So once you are finished with it all, you can get some window cleaner, clean off the glass, glass cleaner, whatever, pop a little plant in there and it should be good to go. If you do choose to solder this instead of just doing the foil, you would solder, you know, now that the foil's on there, add some flux and solder everything, and you could even solder a like a chain onto the top if you wanted to hang it. So that is it for the glass terrarium. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching this video. Make sure you stay connected with Urban Rhino on social media. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, comment below, and of course, subscribe to our channel.